So welcome back once again. Now this time my very special guest is a lady called Brenda Blair. Now Brenda has done many different things in her life. She went to college in her mid-30s to become an accountant. She switched to political science, did a master's in the area of international relations, taught on a master's in peace studies course before leaving to become a facilitator of non-violent communication and to train as a psychotherapist. Now, Brenda worked as a biodynamic and integrative psychotherapist whilst running a healing center and incorporating EFT into her work. Then, unfortunately, suffering burnout from the pressures of running the center, she moved to Spain. Now, while she was in Spain, Brenda went on a spiritual singles dating site and met her now husband at the young age of 65. As he was American, Brenda moved to the US to marry him and to make a new life. And it's here that she got the opportunity to work with Craig Weiner and Alina Frank, who are both EFT trainers. Now, Brenda now works with senior women, helping them to identify the blocks to their finding love, helping them create their vision of the sort of relationship they desire, and coaching them in what to do to make that vision a reality. I am so thrilled that she has very kindly agreed to have a chat with me now and just tell us a little bit more about herself and what she does. So Brenda, thank you so much for agreeing to be on. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you for having me.
No worries. So Brenda, just tell us a little bit more about yourself and about your journey. How did you get to where you are now?
Looking back, it almost seems like there was an inevitability about it. Kind of sounds strange because I did so many different things, but I can see now how all those different things have led me to where I am today. And they virtually all of them in some way feed into the work I do as an EFT practitioner. They inform what I do as an EFT practitioner. So I had no idea I was going to end up in Southern Oregon, married to an American. That was not at all in my expectations, but here I am. And I got this wonderful opportunity to do to train with Craig and Alina, because of course they're on the West Coast. I had come across EFT in unusual circumstances, shall we say. I went on, it wasn't out of my psychotherapy training or anything like that. I went on a drumming camp, big drumming camp. It was the first year it was held, about 400 people off the grid in a field in the middle of Ireland. And it bucketed rain for the first 3 or 4 days.
Very unusual for Ireland.
Yeah, very unusual. That's why I left. And we were stuck in our tents, and I was bored rigid. I mean, I'm lying there. I've read my book. I've gone through it. I'm trying to figure out if other people have books. And a friend of mine called out from her tent and she said, do you want to come and listen to this woman talking about something called emotional freedom technique? And I'd never heard of it. And I was going, I'm kind of snug in my tent. And then I thought, well, I really am bored. So let's go. And I went and I saw a woman called Margot Diskin demonstrating EFT, and I was fascinated. So when I went home, I got Gary Craig's DVDs and I looked at them and I thought, wow, there really is something in this. So I started to incorporate it into my psychotherapy practice. Because being integrative psychotherapy, there was that openness to include other modalities. So I started incorporating it into my psychotherapy practice and discovered I was just getting great results, and ended up, by the time I finished there, I was using it about 80% of the time. Yeah. So, and I love it. I'm just passionate about using it. I see such changes and I just love working with it. So I'm just so blessed I'm here.
Yeah, it is a fantastic tool. So that's incredible that you just stumble across it like that. It's brilliant. But I think a lot, listening to other EFT practitioners, it seems to be a general sort of theme, though. People do just kind of stumble across it and think, oh my God, this is amazing, and sort of get joy. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
How would you describe EFT to someone who hasn't experienced it before?
Okay, so I'll start by saying there's a lot of scientific ways of describing it, and I
Mm.
am not scientific, so I'm going to do kind of the baby version. Like,
That's
okay,
good.
so I would describe it as a form of emotional acupressure.
Mm.
And so you're working with the Chinese meridian points on the hands and the face, tapping on them while saying a statement which is to do with what's happening now, what you're feeling now, what you're experiencing now, acknowledging that, and at the same time accepting that that's where you are. And there's something in the combination of that, the tapping and the statement, acknowledging what is and accepting yourself, that releases emotions, releases intensity of feelings. I think as a simple example, I was just thinking about this, was I got angry yesterday at something somebody did. So I tapped on that anger, even though I'm feeling angry at X because they did such and such. And I tapped on that until the anger was gone. So the event is still the same, but I've now got rid of the anger. And I was then in a place to actually go and talk to them about it in a way, rather than just, feeding off my anger and blaming them and shaming them and things like that. So it's very, very effective.
Yeah, cool. And you've been doing it for a little while now. So what sort of successes have you seen, Brenda?
Okay, well, when I first watched Gary's DVD, and I was fascinated by this man with a fear of water, phobia around water, and 3/4 of an hour later, he was at the bottom of a swimming pool and they couldn't get him out. He was having so much fun. So I started thinking, I know, I was like, wow. I had a lot of success with varied because of people coming to me for different things as psychotherapist. Helping people with smoking. I had one lady who lived in quite a small cabin with her husband. They were both, what's that word? Where you continue to smoke, chain smokers.
Oh yes,
and she gave it up. She gave it up and continued to live with him and never smoked again. Another lady in relationship, her husband was clingy, and it was driving her nuts. And we were able to tap on that, and it changed her relationship. So there are so many different arenas in which it can help people. But probably where it helped me most was in helping me find my husband.
Personal success, we love that.
Yeah, because I was 65 in Spain. I'd been single for 16 years. I had tried dating on and off, and like a lot of women, I think, you tried for a while and then you give it up. And I was happy with my life. I preferred to be by myself on the settee rather than have somebody beside me and we've got nothing to say. But then I would go out at night, I'd go out to meet friends, and they were all couples, and I was coming home alone. So then I tried again, and I began to see after a while that there was a pattern there, that I was attracting the same kind of men. And I saw what the pattern was, that these were men who were not open to commitment. They were either, if I met them physically, locally, they were generally interested in sex in a very free kind of relationship, which wasn't what I was interested in. If I met them, online, they would appear to be really open to relationship, and then something would happen. Like the time I went to San Francisco a week early, I was doing a workshop, went to San Francisco a week early to meet a man. And the week before I went, he told me he'd met another woman online and he was going to put his energies there. So I'm like, what is going on here? And eventually what I realized was that I was actually very comfortable in my little life. I was 16 years and I built this routine and my group of friends and everything, and I was comfortable. And I was scared of upsetting that. I mean, if I go into a relationship, everything's going to have to change, particularly after 16 years. So when I tapped on that, shortly afterwards, I met my husband online.
Fantastic. So how do you use EFT to help women to find love?
Okay, number of ways. Like that, one of them would be looking at past history and the patterns, what kind of men they're attracting, how does that come out, perhaps has something to do with their past history or their family history. That's, we can clear those. The other would be, what are their beliefs? When I first moved here to Ashland, my husband had posted our romance all over his Facebook page and it's like 1,500, friends, and I'm really private. And women I had never met would come up to me in the street and say, "Oh, I love your story. You're so lucky." But it couldn't happen for me because I'm too old. I've put on weight. I've got wrinkles. There are no good men out there. Men are only after sex, or I haven't had sex in years and I'd be terrified. Or, the list is endless. So part of it is about letting go those beliefs, because that's all they are, beliefs. We don't
Yeah.
know. And letting go those. And then the other way in which I help them is really coaching them to create their vision. What is it they want? What's the vision of relationship they have? What do they bring to it? What would they like their partner to bring to it? What are their must-haves? What are their non-negotiables? So that they get really clear. So when you clear out all the old beliefs and the old blocks and get really clear about your vision and can embrace it without going, "Oh yes, but it could never happen to me," then I believe it can't not happen.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because I've noticed that as well. And particularly with women, they don't tend to set goals, or if they do, they're a bit kind of vague, and they're not a bit fluffy almost. And it's a little bit, I
Yes.
found, like saying, "Oh, I want to go to the beach," but unless you're specific, you're going to end up in Bognor Regis rather than Saint-Tropez. And it's just that extra specificity that really makes a difference. When you get really clear on it, then the universe just kind of helps to align to give that to you. That's really interesting.
And it helps when you get clear. It gives you a focus, because I know for me, I got really clear. I'd be contacted by guys online, and they would be, they're interested in a relationship, or maybe they're not, and then I got really clear. I was only interested in somebody who was open to a long-term committed relationship. I didn't have to specify that I needed to be married, but long-term committed. And once I got clear about that, I didn't waste my time responding to people who were not interested in that. So you get, cuts down on what you have to do.
Absolutely, and what you focus on is where you end up. So
Exactly.
brilliant. A living example of it right there. So Brenda, tell me, what are your plans for the rest of the year? What's going on for you at the moment?
Well, I'm building my practice, helping senior women find love. I have a landing page, and I'm creating a website, and I'm also working on drawing up an online course to help senior women, with online dating. Because the reality nowadays is, when I was in Spain, there were very few single men around. So, where am I going to meet them? So going online, and it's a big step for a lot of women. For a lot of women, even just putting up a tag at the top that, one line can be a block, and they can go, "Oh no, I can't do this." So I would coach them in creating a profile, and in the coaching, we could then discover what other blocks they might have or other beliefs they have. And they need never post the profile. Just the fact of doing a profile helps to gain the clarity as to who you are, who you would like, and what kind of relationship you would like. And that's putting that out there. This is who I am. This is what I want. And that clarity, I do believe, is what makes the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems to be now more and more that dating is an online thing. I mean, particularly at the moment, because no one can go out and meet people. But I mean, I met my other half online, and it's an interesting place to be. You get a few interesting people.
Oh yeah, and you get experience. You learn to recognize, guys who aren't going where you want to go. And the other advantage that I believe about it is that you actually get to know somebody in more depth before you meet them physically. So you don't have physical attraction clouding all the rest of the stuff. And because it's online, and you're probably communicating, if they're a little distance away, you're communicating by phone, or nowadays by Skype or Zoom or something like that, you really get to know the other person in much greater depth than if you met them locally and you're going out on dates. And, frankly, at the age of 65, I don't want to waste time, It's like go for it. And it's you know, I mean, I have to laugh because when we were putting together my application to come to America, I had to go through the immigration process. So we had to put together evidence that we were in a relationship. So we counted the amount of emails we exchanged in the first month and the length of time we spent on Skype. And in the first month, we had exchanged 625 emails and 50 hours on Skype. So by the time I met Jack, he came over 5 weeks later, which seems like very precipitous that like 5 weeks later he lands in Spain. But at that stage, I knew so much about him. When we got to the place on Skype calls where we would just sit and just look at each other, we didn't even need words. So there are definitely advantages to doing it online, which is not to discount that you can find people locally either.
No, but it did make me chuckle because I remember my mum when I first told her that I was doing online dating, and there was the whole motherly, oh, you know, be careful. And I was like, well, how did you used to meet chaps? And she's like, oh, we just used to go to the local dance and we'd meet a bloke and they'd take us home. I was like, well, that's safe. To bed them, you know. Oh, it's fantastic. So, Brenda, where can people go to find out a little bit more about you?
Okay, they can find me at www.tappingintoseniorlove.com, or they can find me on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Brenda Blair EFT /
Okay, fantastic. And I will put the links to all that in the comments as well, so that people can jump straight. So Brenda, it's been absolutely fabulous talking to you, my lovely. Before we finish up, is there any advice you can give for the more senior lady, or any lady really, looking for love?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to realize that it's not luck. It's about persistence and it's about learning. And if you really want it, and you can learn about yourself and you can be persistent, and it'll happen. And it's like somebody said once that it's like when two people are destined to meet, it's like there's a beacon that's lit, and they light beacons, and those beacons are coming together. It may take a little while, and those beacons will come together. Well, that's what happened to me and my husband. And so my husband arrived in Spain without a word of Spanish. And I had said in my profile that my dream was to dance in the gardens of the Alhambra in Granada at night with my beloved. And he made that happen. Without a word of Spanish, he made it happen. And he kept it a surprise till we arrived at the Alhambra. I didn't know it was going to happen.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
You know? Yeah. So what I want to say to them is would like to say to you ladies, the men are out there. And it doesn't matter what age you are. I have a photograph of a couple who are married at the age of 100 and 103.
Wow.
There is no such thing as too old. And all you have to do is light your beacon and wait for that other beacon to find you.
Fantastic. I love that. I love that. So ladies, if you do want some help, check out the links in the comments. Go towards Brenda. She's totally the woman for you. Brenda, thank you so very much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. I hope you have a lovely rest of the afternoon for you in America.
Afternoon for me in America. Claire, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Cheers, lovey. Take care. Bye.